Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, today is a rather interesting episode. It is not specifically about anything that you might have thought. During the patch notes video, I came across kind of like the general idea that some people didn't quite know exactly what to use the shift key for. And apparently, we're only using the shift key for moderate uses, if anything. And in Diablo, the shift key is really one of the most amazing keys. If you haven't learned about the shift key, well, buckle up because that's what we're going to learn about today. I'm going to tell you all the intricacies. I'm terrible. Of the shift key and what you can do with the shift key, which is a little bit more than you may have otherwise normally thought. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to a character who is not a melee character. The reason why we're going to do this is because Shift key is a very obvious choice for a ranged character. If you are any kind of ranged character, doesn't matter what kind of ranged character you are, the Shift key comes in super handy because it allows you to target a monster without actually targeting a monster. So for instance, if I click at any point, I will obviously move my character. The Shift key prevents movement, but it also allows you to cast a skill without having to actually target a monster. Otherwise, if I wanted to target a monster or use the ability, I would have to target the monster directly to get the full effect of the ability. So I can't just cast the ability while moving. I have to hold the shift key to cast the ability. So what specifically does the shift key do, which is so amazing? So let's go over the things that the shift key does. Number one is it prevents movement, okay? And you have to think about this as a more than just simply preventing movement. Because what does preventing movement do in Diablo 2 and Diablo 2 Resurrected? Well, preventing movement, number one, prevents your defense from going away. Notice how your defense goes to line as soon as you start to run. So when you are moving, your defense disappears. Although you can't see it, when you're running around, your block chance also caps at 25%, which is relatively low and actually can be even lower depending on what your block chance is. So your block chance basically goes to nothing while you're running. So you lose two things. You lose your defense and you lose your block chance while you are moving. All right. So this is a very interesting reason why using the shift key can come in handy to help prevent your character from getting killed. If you are a melee character specifically, and this is one of the big uses of it for melee characters, you want to use the shift key to prevent your own death. A lot of people don't know this, but when you are moving from target to target, you are losing all of your defensive capability. So you are essentially putting yourself in a crappy position. Let's go over here to Eldritch real quick. This is Hell difficulty. And let's pretend we are fighting, Eldritch, doesn't matter what we're fighting. We're fighting somebody, and we're attacking targets, and we're moving in between those targets, all right? Every single time we move in between those targets while run is activated, you'll notice that my defense and my block chance go down to 0. All right. So what can you do to prevent that? Well, one thing you can do is just simply hold the shift key, and you can click with Zeal, or whatever your melee ability is. This makes it so that, number one, you can't move. And because you can't move, you will not lose your block chance, and you will not lose your defense while you are meleeing. Because I'm not actively targeting anything specifically, I'm just using Zeal in the general direction of monsters. Anytime a monster comes close to me, I will immediately Zeal that target. And as you can see, it worked fairly effectively on Eldritch the Rectifier. Of course, you're going to have to chase down some targets, like the ranged monsters are not going to come within range for you to hit them, and that's a little bit different of a story. So, like for instance, these guys, you're going to have to move in between targets. The only thing you can do to prevent your defense and strength, or defense and block chance loss, is to walk instead of run when you're dealing with ranged monsters. But normally, when I'm dealing with monsters that are not ranged, I focus pretty much primarily on the shift key usage because it's so amazingly useful to prevent myself from losing any kind of defense. And you may find yourself in a situation in the future where you're, barely surviving, and it seems like every single time you move, it's literally almost your death. Well, basically holding down the shift key is going to make sure that your character doesn't move, and it's very, very important. Also, on ranged characters, it can be very, very useful to get off the abilities when you actually need to get them off. So let's go over to the. Let's looking for a boson. Don't I have a boson in here somewhere? I do. So on a boson specifically, this is something that's actually really, really useful because you definitely want to test, like, when you're near targets. Notice that when I was not near a target, I could tap shift and strafe would only fire one arrow. However, when I get within range of a target, now all of a sudden strafe is firing multi-shots. This allows me to get off shots essentially when I'm not even within range of the monsters. If you, especially with a multi-shot on, if you want to fire shots to make sure that you're dishing out the damage to targets that you're not within range of, you need to be able to utilize this as your main form of firing. And you can tell when you hit targets. If you look closely above the Amazon's head, when I fire off screen, you will see the lifesteal indicating that I have indeed hit a target. This is a very good way to basically play an Amazon. You can essentially fire at targets that are off screen, and you also know that the targets are dead when the life and mana steal indicators cease. Obviously, there is a maximum distance on the arrows, so you do have to be careful about that. But it's not too ginormously big of a deal. The other thing here that you've got to worry about is obviously hitting the shift key too many times. If you've never done this before, I hate it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it here on camera. Let me see if I can get it to work. I usually turn it off, by the way. And watch it not work this one particular time. And it's not going to do it. Just this one particular time, huh? So if you hit the shift key 5 times fast, it enables what's called sticky keys. And I was hoping I'd be able to show it to you, but apparently my sticky keys have been turned off. For the first time ever, literally, they're actually off, which is quite surprising. Now, one of the other really important uses of the shift key is for abilities that don't necessarily have a good target. Even if you wanted them to have a good target, it's kind of hard to explain it exactly, but let me go ahead and just pop a couple points into here. Make a quick poison necromancer, because I want to show you the bodies. I don't want to show you the rest. So let me grab a clay golem just to keep myself alive. And we're also going to grab some bone armor too, so I can keep myself alive even better. This is by no means what I would consider a optimal spec. This is just simply something that I want to show you guys. All right, so we're going to do Corpse Explosion and Poison Nova. And what I'd like to show you is how Corpse Explosion and Poison Nova can sometimes be a little bit of a pain in the butt. Of course, I had to come across the only poison immune monsters in the sector. Alright, so here we have a group of bodies on the ground, and sometimes it's difficult to get the bodies to actually trigger. Alright, you have to actually click on the body. Sometimes it's a little difficult to target the bodies. This happens with Find Item, this happens with Find Potion, it happens with Corpse Explosion. It happens with a lot of abilities that are specifically a little bit difficult to get to trigger. However, one of the things that you can do, which is extremely easy, is you can hold down the shift key and you can right-click in a general area, and it will explode pretty much any corpse in that area without really having to really target the corpses. This is one of the things that I've always used when it comes to Corpse Explosion, is you don't necessarily target each individual corpse. Instead, you just hold the shift key and you just kind of right click in the general area. And you'll notice that, see, this corpse right here is not exploding. You have to move your mouse where you want it to explode. So this corpse right here, I don't have to explode this corpse. Shift doesn't explode any corpse on the battlefield. It explodes the corpses in the general area of where you are clicking. So you hold shift and then you would hold right click and then you would move your mouse over to the corpse that you want to explode, and it automatically explodes those corpses in that general zone. It's actually one of the best ways that I've found to use skills like find item, find potion, corpse explosion, and any other kind of corpse ability in general. As a necromancer, it's something that you learn early on because you need it with raised skeleton. You need to do it with raised skeletal mage. You need to do it with the revives, and there are just quite a large number of monsters in the game that literally have a very skills in the game that are very easy to utilize with the right click ability. For instance, let's switch over to the raised skeleton. And let's say I want to raise these particular bodies right here. So I can hold shift and I can just right click and I can just move my mouse around and it will get every single corpse on the floor. As long as you are essentially in the general zone of where the corpse is, you're set. And you don't even really have to let it go. You can hold down the shift key and you can continually holding down the shift key and the right click, and you can just simply move your mouse around like this, and anytime a corpse appears, you could take advantage of that corpse by resurrecting it, or exploding it, or reviving it, or making items pop out of it, whatever it may be. We got a scroll of identify here now. We get a towels. Zip verbs. Boo. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can go over when it comes to the shift key. I mean, the deathly obvious thing here that I think I may have overlooked, just simply because it is so obvious, is if you don't want your character to move, holding the shift key is the easiest way to make sure that they do not move. Maybe you have obtained the perfect right position behind a pillar to protect you from Diablo's fire, or maybe you have, you've got the exact right position for a boss so that you can hit him without him hitting you back. Whatever it may be, shift will prevent your character from moving. And this is both a good and a bad thing for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you want your character to move, and obviously the shift key is bad. Sometimes you don't want your character to move, and the shift key is good. And I mean, it's just a wide variety of things that you can do with the shift key. It is extremely useful in honestly every character. One of the things that I really like to do with melee characters is I like to get the first hit. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do you do that? So if you are a melee character and you have any kind of melee ability, you can essentially spam your melee ability from a distance. And how this works is that you are essentially a character who is spamming his ability before the monster actually gets there. So as soon as the monster becomes in range, you can hit the monster before he hits you. You essentially have the drop on him. This allows you to kill monsters or even players before they have a chance to hit you back by essentially just standing there and spamming your ability and hoping essentially that you get the first blow off. And usually, because the monster or the player is running toward you to hit you and you are standing still, you are usually at a significant advantage, basically because you are standing still, you have your full defense, you have your full block chance, but they do not. Now, Smite in particular will hit no matter the defense of the monster or the player, but I do believe block chance does come into play for Smite. And obviously, if you're running toward a smiter versus standing still, there's a pretty big benefit there. Now, you can't attack a player while standing still. You literally can't stand still. So, like, if I'm trying to attack a player or just attack in a player's general direction, it doesn't work because I have to hold down the shift key to achieve that. So I have to literally just do this. And once I'm holding down the shift key and spamming my ability, then if the person or the monster walks within my range, they are going to get wailed on. And this can work for a wide variety of abilities. You can use shift to help your charge around as well. So charge is an ability that's supposed to be used on a monster, but because you can hold down the shift key and cast the ability without the presence of a monster, you can utilize the shift key as a movement type ability, which is pretty darn cool. And utilizing charge as a movement ability is absolutely great. Just do be careful of the massive amount of mana that it drains from your bar, especially if you don't have a particularly high amount of mana. Of course, you can always stop and hit a target if you've got a decent amount of mana steal to refill your mana pool. It could come in handy that way. I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the shift key. If I haven't impressed upon you the value of the shift key, I don't know what else can. I mean, there's a couple other uses for the shift key, obviously. You can shift potions into your belt. If you're unaware of that, let me show you really quickly. So, God, I'm too fast. I'm way too fast. Oh, God. Oh, God. Why did I do this to myself? So if you've never shift keyed potions into your belt, by holding the shift key, you can fill your entire belt. That's how it works. So holding the shift key and right-clicking causes your entire belt to fill. Also, you can fill your belt by holding the shift key and clicking on the potions, which will put the potions into your belt. So as you can see, I can actually physically put the potions into my belt. I can also take them out by shift-clicking. Both ways work. And I'm trying to think if there's anything more that the shift key can do. I think it actually works as the compare button as well. Yes, it works as the compare button so that you can compare weapons and armor to the weapon and armor that you're wearing. The multi-purposed magnificence of the shift key. I'm telling you guys. It's the shift key is like so important that literally I was playing a game the other day and the shift key was bound to something else. It wasn't bound to what the shift key does in this game. And I was like, yeah, I gotta have to unbind that. That is not gonna fly on this radar. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's a silly video about the shift key. And as always, keep watching.